So I'm going to start out with our capital, my capital plan. This year, I have 10 projects, and I'll pass this down. The ones that are highlighted when you look at it, that's the ones that need to be done to keep within my budget. As you remember, you guys passed a bond resolution last year so we can get James Street done, which dove into my budget this year. So we have approximately 79,000, maybe another 15 to go with it if Doris comes up with the money to transfer into the capital projects. So the roads that are going to get done this year is that coincides with the town of Marbletown is Mossy Brook Road.
He's going to pass around.
Ann and Jolene Streets, rebuild and pave Circle Avenue in Biddingwater, rebuild and pave Keller's Lane, a true and level project on River Road Extension, and raise and pave rear section of West End Avenue to include ditching, culverts, and the whole coincide with the flooding condition that happens when we get a shower. So I'll pass this down just to, I had copies for you, I must have left it back.
So Bob, the work on West, that will, do you think that will address the flooding?
It'll help. At least you'll be able to drive a car through there without flooding it out. So we're going to raise it up approximately 6 inches. So with that, with the culvert and the ditch work, we should be at least able to flow some water.
So that's from where to where?
Basically from, it's basically the middle of the road. It has sunk over the years, so it just has to be raised.
You know what has helped a lot? You know where the sign is? You know where 32 Lunch is if you're going to Kingston? There's a big sign up there. That area was the problem. The water was coming off the mountain and going and hitting down the Parkcrest. So somebody had enough, took enough, and went up there with an excavator and banked it all. So now it forces the water, so it's going to be less going down to the park on those extreme real bad storms.
Are you planning on going all the way up to 32 with that? Like on where Washington Park is? No, Washington Avenue? No.
No.
Just the west end?
Just, that's a whole
Because you know,
different-
I just want to make sure you know that I'm working on something for
Yeah.
that, okay?
No, this is just the backside of
Okay.
Washington Park.
Yep.
Yeah, and then get a lot from Jocelynburg
Yep.
too.
Yeah.
Two ends.
With coinciding with that, what's going on with the parking lot where that drain goes through the parking lot? Where are we at with that? Because I know we discussed it in the past.
Well, it's one of the
part
New
of
York
your-
Rising projects, and it's I believe it's going to be our second project. Our first one is the James Street
The
project.
fans parking lot?
So the owner of Fans is not responsible for that. That would go under a New York State.
I'm not going to say who's responsible because I can't really speak on that. I mean, I think they probably each think the other person's responsible, so I don't want to say who's responsible.
It's been a finger pointing for
Yeah,
years.
so, but I just know there's a few things we can do to help make it better, and that's what we're trying to do. We'll probably have to have engineers that evaluate it too, come up with a plan.
Are any of the ditches, are you doing any of the ditches that are off of the road that aren't in that area there as
It's
well?
going to be an ongoing project throughout the whole town.
Okay.
But yes, down there,
Yeah.
we have to flow the water. It's something that hasn't been attended to, and with sand and salt that you put down on a yearly basis, it gets plowed to the side. What happens is the shoulders raise up, and that's where you get your flooding conditions on the roads. So yes, we're going to be continuing that. We did, the goal was 10 lane miles last year. Fell a little bit short on that, but we did clean out some ditching that was long overdue. So when you see this, everything in italics is definite. It's an aggressive sheet that's getting passed around, but you don't have that one. It's coming to you. The ones that aren't in italics, that was basically a wish list. Maybe come up with some money. So, but But, you know, what I'm trying to do is get it to a pattern and a maintenance program throughout the town where we're, instead of having to do a rehabilitation work, we're doing just a maintenance program.
And I want to remind everybody, because we did the James Street project last year, it's really part of the, you know, the budget, it was budgeted for this year, so that was, you know, a big, huge savings for the town, and, but it also means that we'll have, Bob has less money to work with this year, so he's not going to be able to do some of the bigger projects that you might want to do, so I think this is still a pretty impressive plan with the limited funds that you have.
Yep. Like I said, the main one is it's already it's a co-project with the town of Marltown, Wassupper Road, so.
And remember, Bob, we're going to be doing the James, you have here from James Street to McGinty's.
Yep.
I would
Hold
off on that because we're going to be do that project, and I'm actually working on the paperwork. It looks like it's going to happen really
That's
soon.
what I was counting on.
But I do think that they don't predict that to really actually happen until next year, because it's going to be you know how that works, years worth. But I would say if you could switch your goal to another project,
Mhm.
maybe we could put that off, and a lot of that is going to get done through that project.
Yep.
So you would, you know, hold off on that. We'll get some of that money to take care of that.
That's one of the New York Rising projects
Yes.
that would address the area of washout.
Well,
essentially.
the area across from Park Crest entrance, there's a
Yeah.
culvert under there. It's a stone culvert, and we're gonna replace it with a concrete culvert. Build the riprap up along the James, you know, along the bank of James Street, so it's higher, so there's less of an undermining. And then we want to create a promenade down to 32, which will eat into the road a little bit. And, you know, Bob is going to actually be our liaison for that project and keep an eye on how the road's getting built.
It will, by eating into the road a bit, it will also hopefully have an impact of slowing traffic down a little bit.
Heard something about speeding on James Street.
No.
It's a pretty wide road, so I don't think it's going to hurt it any tipping down a little bit. But, you know, the part of the process is getting Army Corps and DEC involved, so that's going to take a little bit more time just to get all those approvals in place. But that means, you know, they're going to put back some of the roads, so, you know, we can coordinate that. I think it would make sense to coordinate that with that. But that's going to be something it's your purview, so you can kind of work with that.
Hey, if I can get some free money, that's all.
For the roads that you talk about rebuilding or raising and paving, these are some of the roads that were actually never built to begin with.
We have a lot of roads that were never built in the town or built kind of, on a makeshift plan, but,
This is actually putting a base beneath them.
Keller's Lane, there's a dip there. It's not much of a road, but it does get traveled. You know, it has sunk, so it has to be, you know, all the millings that we took out of James Street, we've used a lot. We rebuilt the parking lot over at Binneywater parking lot, and we've raised some other roads already using this material. You know, domino effect with the machine that, you know, you guys let me purchase last year, that saved us a lot of money and a lot of time, and actually increased our work, so, you know, it's gonna continue this year. Any questions on the capital plan and the roads? We did a lot of work on Grist Mill Road last year, a lot of true level work. That road, again, it's a single lane road, but, you know, we do have a lot of people that live back there, so. It was a rough road. It's a little bit better now. It would have been a lot nicer if I could, but there's always next year, so. What I'll do is I'll get you copies. I'll leave them in your mailbox of this whole thing. So you can look them over. Capital equipment plan. I have two bonds out right now. I have one more year after this year for we pay off the loader. That's $13,000 a year. We have the remaining 3 years on the other equipment we purchased, so that's 17. Some of this is just minor work, but I do have to come up with some sort of plan, replacement plan for some dump trucks in the near future, going out a few years. So hopefully we'll come something. There was a program back when I was supervisor for international trucks. Obviously, that's no longer in play, and so I've got to look for something of that nature. Anyway, we purchased a dump body for one of our trucks. That's going to get installed this spring. Our water tank on our water truck is leaking. It's steel, it's rusted out. So I'm looking to purchase a new poly tank that'll sit right on the same truck. Just pull the steel tank off, put a poly tank on. T-bars, if we go with the maintenance program, on our bigger trucks, we have to have bars installed on. It's not a big cost, it's just manufacturing. We have a truck that we got from Newport's a few years ago. It's really a wasted truck. We do not have a spare plow truck at all. So what we're looking to do is put a plow in this truck, get a new poly sander for one of the smaller trucks, because the small sanders we have are all stainless steel or steel, a lot of weight on the truck. Polys are only about 700 pounds, can be put on by 2 guys. So we're looking to get a new poly sander for one of the smaller trucks, put that steel sander in this truck that's not being used, and then that'll give us a spare truck. And just basically some refurb work on some of the other vehicles.
That's actually in our folder on the left-hand side.
Oh, Jill might have put it in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
over
in
there.
here.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, that's right, she did. That's why I didn't do it.
That's why you didn't bring them, right? Oh, yeah, I knew that.
Thanks.
It should be, mine was on the left-hand side.
Oh, here.
So there you can, any questions, don't hesitate to call. Okay, ongoing capital work is shoulder and ditch work. Tree work, ongoing in Plain Cemetery and roads. Worked with the Environmental Commission, come up with a plan on how to educate, identify, and remedy the ash borer beetle infestation that has exploded over the past year.
It's definitely been a problem. As soon as the leaves are off the trees, I can't tell you how many trees I see that are infected.
With the changing of the seasons, I've seen one in Lower James, the bark's just popping off, so they're really easy to identify
So
infected trees.
we had a couple cold days, so I had the guys out doing inventory, not only on the ash trees, but guardrails, signs, the whole 9 yards, getting ready for replacement this year. We came up with 97 identified infested ash trees that are just on our town roads. That does not include the county roads, does not include state roads or private property. If you have a chance, there's a major infestation. If you go down to around that Little League field, to the left area, that wooded area, there's got to be at least 100 trees alone in there that are infested. So it's a problem, and hopefully between Chris and I, within the environmental, we can come up with a plan. I need help on it. It's more of an educational thing because we can't do anything unless the private property owners do
Yeah.
something.
People have to be educated on what they
Yep.
can do and what they can't do.
And the 97 trees that we identified, we took it in 10 feet off the road, even though that's technically not a right-of-way for us. It will affect the roads if the trees go down. So,
And then what do you do with the trees?
well, at that point, this is where the DEC has come on to the plan where they only want us to chip what's there, and or they want us to grind up the trunks of the tree, of which we don't have that equipment, and we don't have the $1,200 a day rental to rent that equipment. And they won't let us transport it. So it's, if you leave it on the side of the road, it kind of defeats the purpose of transporting it to other areas, manifesting in other areas. So it's a real problem.
They should let us have a work site, they should allow us to have a
Absolutely.
work site, even if it was like a transfer station or something, so you could chip them or whatever,
Is it-
You can't really work on the side of the road.
Yeah, right now, it's a 200-foot limit or something that you're supposed to transport them right now?
Well, it started back in the spring as a 40-mile,
Okay.
you could transport 40 miles, which would kind of serve,
That would work.
serve the purpose of transporting it to a spot. Now it's, you're right, 200 feet, and So what are you gonna do? You know, you're gonna live there, somebody's gonna come up. I mean, I've been called to have trees down, and by the time I get there, they're gone.
Let's go, yeah.
I mean, people burn wood. So,
Chris,
Yes.
at the environmental commission, have they talked about plan, or, I know I've repeatedly asked them if they would,
Yeah,
you
they've
know,
already,
take this under their wing and try to come up with a plan for education.
Yeah,
And
it's
they've done
one-
a couple of things. Do they have any plan for this year?
it's one of the top priorities. Last year, they identified existing resources out there for public education, and we're having a meeting, well, the highway supervisor will be at our meeting next week, or 2 weeks from now.
so hopefully we'll come up with something.
I
And,
know, you were interested in finding out, maybe that would be one of the things, if there's a chipper that, you know, we can get our hands on too, so. Have you reached out to other towns to see if anyone has one?
There's the only one, I mean, Jimmy Min does have one. It's old, it's very expensive to operate, and it's not as, you know, it's not mobile.
Can you use it for mulch? You can use it for mulch once it's been checked,
I
right?
believe you can, yes.
One of the things the environmental commission has talked about is a lead hike, probably along the rail trail, when we have infestation, so that they can teach people about it. And we've also talked about the possibility of a movie or a lecture or some other public thing.
I didn't bring this because this is what the DEC handles. But this was taken in 2000, I believe it was 2007. We passed that around, and it basically comes up with the intensities of the infestations, and it's probably quadrupled since then.
Yeah, I remember going to a seminar on it, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it was mostly up north, and pretty much like, well, you don't have to worry about it, you're not in the right area, and, you know, here it is now.
I mean, if you really want to see it, if you come up Cottick Hill Road just before Manager Green's house, and you look to the right, there's a huge ash, I mean, it's totally.
How close to, I mean,
As you're coming up the hill
Uh-huh.
towards Mary's house, if you're on the right-hand side, you can't miss it. It's huge.
It's
It's actually a huge one right by your driveway too.
Yeah, I have a lot of them.
it would be, I don't know if we would have a budget for this, but, you know, mailing to people, would just, that's really the best way to reach the residents. Is to have a postcard with a picture tells it all, you know, because it's just hard to get to people through.
Well, the DC does have the flyers. I mean, you know, they have, I mean, you have a black and white copy of it, but they have the little mailers. And it describes the whole thing.
And we ended them out at the street festival. I mean, we could get the pamphlets, I'm not sure if I agree about mailing, I'm not, you know, I think, you know, you could have, I bet you the post office would let you have them sit on the counter, and a few other places, you know, that we can hand them out. Rec center could have them, places where people congregate.
So what are the solutions for this problem that has quadrupled since 2007?
You know, it's basically the DEC's come up with this, and it's, you know, it's an awareness thing. The problem is there's no money, there's no, they're coming to the highway superintendent saying, please help us, but there's no way, there's no money to help you with. And then limitations on what you can and can't do, or
It makes it harder.
So we're teaching people about what? Not,
To basically, they want you to destroy the tree that you have that's infested, so it doesn't infest the next tree. But that means cutting it down and chipping it so that it kills the larva or whatever, and you know, and then, I suppose then you could use it for mulch, but, you know, people either have to have the skill, or you have to hire someone, or, and then that person can't take that.
People have to know that they can't sell that firewood, they can't,
take
you know,
it to
they
the
can't
campgrounds.
move it.
well, if we've quadrupled in 8 years, it sounds like that something should be
It's from their yard.
Yeah, you can burn it down.
You can burn it in your own house if it's in your yard, yeah,
If it's within 200 feet.
within 200 feet.
Um,
That's about it.
But yeah, if they're left, once they're dead, it's going to fall eventually. It poses a risk to property.
Yeah, they're gonna die and fall anyway. Tree's gonna die.
No, no, but I'm saying in a short span of 8 years, if Bob's saying roughly it's probably quadruple, I would think that it's an issue that needs to be addressed right now.
Absolutely. When Bob, was it a year ago, we talked about it? And you were just starting to identify some trees. And now, this year, I would say it's more than quadrupled. I mean, it's everywhere now. I mean, you can just see it, like, as soon as the leaves come off the trees, you could just see, everywhere you look.
Calic Road's another spot where you just come off of Hickory Bush going towards 32. On the left, there's a little swampy area, there's another major infestation there.
One thing, I'm just want to know, one thing I didn't know if they put in the paperwork is whether they are dormant during the winter.
Yeah.
They are. So they will let you transport them to your
April.
chipping station while they're dormant even?
Because they can't be guaranteed that.
It's gonna get done.
Chip.
Or other
No, I'm saying if
surrounding
the town had
towns
a program to
having
check
an
them,
issue too?
you would be able to have a chipping
town.
station or something.
Pearly,
Maybe.
Soggy's is real bad.
Really?
Well, that's what I'm saying, if we had a program we were trying to destroy
Is
them.
it worth, what do you think about approaching them and seeing if we have protocols in place where we can get an exception so that we could have a municipally mandated,
Again,
municipal program?
It would be good. I mean, like, if they're gonna make a change, they would have to make a change statewide. Because in the western part of the state, it's a bad problem too. So,
They really should have some kind of permit process so you could,
yeah, it should be just like, it should be similar to the burning permit. Because, there's no
Yeah.
burning between this date and this date. Well, if we can take care of the wood from this date to this date,
chip it.
especially in wintertime, other than snowstorms, it's trying to, find busy work. And it's the perfect time to take care of it. So that's where we're heading on that. We'll come up with something when we. Other than that, the only ongoing projects, Binningware Dam decommissioning, which is not really a decommissioning anymore, but it is a decommissioning.
Are we ready?
The trail going around the Binningwater Pond, make that a recreation area. Signs to conform with the 2018 mandates. This is an unfunded federal mandate to enlarge the signs with reflective backing, all street signs for all also people that are going to be turning 60 soon, and so they can see them. And they're all got to be changed to 6 inches.
And they go to capital letters or something, what was it? Oh, it's
No, it's capital now, but they want.
they want capital and small case,
lowercase.
upper and lower, yeah, okay.
So in that process, do you evaluate whether all those signs are needed?
Yeah. Unfortunately, some of the signs, some of the roads, you have, I'll take the Tilson area by the post office. You have a road that goes through 3 different roads. So basically, you need a sign on every road. So,
I know where Jen's going with this, and it's about the Finding Rosendale, and we're trying to figure out what signs that we put up might be able to have something incorporated so that, you don't have to have all the signage. And I guess the question is, how much do we have to incorporate by law, what you have to do, and I think maybe the next meeting we should talk about that, how much, if we're gonna give you have your street signs, your road signs, your
as it is right now, it's just your road signs.
okay.
Not street names or,
Well, the street,
Yeah.
whatever the name of the road is, that's
okay, so that's a lot of signs.
Yeah.
Minneapolis, Minnesota, their budget alone for replacing all their signs was like $3.5 million.
Insane. That's ridiculous.
Do we, so
That was 3M.
do you have you guys done an inventory yet? Do you have an idea of how many?
A lot.
Yeah,
A lot more than the money we have.
yeah. We have a $2,000 budget.
Sell off the old ones as souvenirs.
Yeah. They're being stolen, so it doesn't matter.
Well, just tell them you have the 200-year
You know, there's a
plan.
market.
Exactly. One sign a year.
We'll get there, as long as we're working on it.
Just Basically, installation and or replacement of culverts and catch basins, street cleaning as per MS4 maintenance. Just to touch on that, we had a little lull in December, and we were able to recoup from the Thanksgiving storm and the other small storm. We recouped a little over 150 tons sand from, so
That's great.
some of the
Salt
guys
sand,
looked at me
right.
funny when I told them I wanted to sweep her out, so, but we did recoup some. Some guardrail installation and a replacement, and then final cleanup around the pool area, once Julie gets her project. So, that's all I got.
Okay.
Also, I know it's one of the agendas about snow removal. Working on Friday morning for Main Street. But I'm still waiting back to hear from the state and some of our neighboring towns, because they're all removing the snow too, because of expected potential of 18 to 24 inches Sunday through.
When you say Friday morning, is that
Yeah,
six
for
in the morning?
removing.
Eight?
So,
What time Friday morning?
That would be approximately 4 o'clock.
actually, I have a question, it's a capital question.
Yep.
I
You want to purchase me a snowball?
Huh? Yeah, well, I wanted to ask about that. So there's the issue of the police, of it getting plowed here earlier enough, and I wondered, do we have enough equipment? Like, is it worth considering having a snow blower for this
Well, there
facility?
We have
There
one
is a
sitting
snow-
in the back shed.
Oh, there is one.
Been used
So it's
about
just
half a
getting
dozen
it done.
times.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's been done.
All right.
Do you think you can stick around for the Main Street conversation?
I sure can.
Thank you. And thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
So I just, it's come up a few times about the Main Street sidewalks and maintenance. I've heard some chatter about an interest in creating a district, and I will say right off the bat that I'm not in favor of creating a district, because it would mean a huge increase in taxes. But I do think it is a problem, and we're going to try to address that. One of the things I just want the public to understand is, if you created a district, everybody who's now shoveling and taking care of their property and has been doing it for many years would now be forced to pay to have staffing, and we'd have to hire more people. It would be, you talk about benefits and the amount of manpower we would need. So it's not a realistic, I think, solution to this problem. I will just say that last week, when the snowfall happened, our code enforcement officer went out and issued 19 violations. There were 19 properties that did not shovel in front of their sidewalks. Between then and now, we have 10 people have complied based on getting a notification that they didn't comply. So I think that we can be a little bit more aggressive. I've asked them to make it, something that they have to do every time there's a snowfall. Go out, check to see who's plowed, who's shoveled and who hasn't, and to give them a notification. I've talked to Bob Gallagher about a plan for how are we going to implement something to correct the maybe 8 or 5 people that haven't taken care of it. And I am still working on the modification of the property code, maintenance code, and I think we can incorporate something in there so that if someone does, my hope is that we could come up with a plan. I've talked to our attorney about it, of identifying people that haven't done it within a certain time limit, and then if they haven't, Bob would get a call. He would go send his crew to clean that sidewalk. Those people would get a bill, and if they didn't pay that bill, it would go on their taxes. So that's one solution, and it's just about dealing with the people that haven't taken care of it. And I think property maintenance is the way to go. And I think that we're going to see some compliance as soon as you start to tell people you're going to get charged, because, many people, this has been something that people have taken care of for many years, but you do have some properties where you might have tenants instead of landowners at the property. So, you know, sometimes it's about education, it's about making people understand, especially when properties change hands. Maybe they were never notified that it's their responsibility. So I think we can be much more aggressive about getting the word out to those people that they have a violation. And we had 10 people that immediately responded and, you know, apologized and took care of it. So I think we can, we may end up with a few people that we still have to be more aggressive about. But I think that there's no way that we can come up with more employees to be hired to, we'd have to have such a huge staff to take care of that, and then you'd have to have everybody in the district agree that they want to be in the district, and then you know, it's just a lot of work to create a district, and it's a lot of money. So, you know, with the 2% cap in place, it would be really difficult for us to be able to justify that much of an increase in taxes. Even though the district would be only for those people, it still increases our budget, you know, so. But I do agree that it is a problem and we need to be more aggressive. And one of the things Bob and I have talked about, and Perry, that the other thing is to get people to not park their cars on Main Street during snowstorms. And, you know, we're gonna have to be more aggressive about, you know, violations there. If you need your car towed or you need a ticket, that's going to happen. You're going to have to park in the municipal lot during a storm and not on Main Street, because one of the problems is if you have the DOT comes through and they're plowing and you got 2 cars sitting there on the street, they're not going to go up to as close to the sidewalk. They're going to go around, and that pile of snow is still going to be there next day and next day. Now you have ice, and so you have a combination of people not shoveling their sidewalks, and then people not moving their cars out of the way so that the plowing can take place.
And also getting to the drains. So
Right.
that-
And of course, we know there's a little bit of an issue because only one side of the street gets the sun, you know, and that melts and the other side doesn't. But and then periodically, Highway has always come in and taken away the snow when there's been a huge amount of snow on the street. And I'm sure that will still take place if we have the need. But it has to be something that, you know, people are aware of what the responsibilities are. I have tenants on Main Street. You know what? The commercial properties, they know that they're in their lease. It says that they have to shovel the sidewalk. If they don't shovel the sidewalk, and I get charged, it's going to go on them. And I don't know what people have in place for, you know, some of the tenants. But either the landlord has to be responsible for it, or if he makes an agreement with them. So, you know, I think that, I know the Main Street Association talked about it, I know the Economic Development Commission has talked about it. You know, maybe it might be an outreach that you might want to do to try to figure out, you know, how to make sure people are educated about what the responsibilities are. We can still send out the violations, but it doesn't hurt to have your neighbor explain, or a commission or an association explain. The other thing we talked about is whether you wanted to have a Main Street Association, which means you privately can hire people to take care of it. But that's you know, still means everybody's got to be on the board, and that's another difficult situation to put in place. Yes.
Well, 2 things. One, you know, the whole concept of a share economy, a shared snow blower for Main Street is like that's like a perfect example of a way to reduce the costs and spread the costs and ease everyone's burden. But there, I think one of the big issue I seem to recall from that meeting was the snow. It is a question in some cases of people not taking care of their properties, but the snow, where to put the snow. That was the biggest problem. And people do shovel it, but even if they have a snow blower that gets blown back in the street, then it gets
Still a problem.
plowed back, you know, back. So that's the conundrum. It's that we have a very narrow Main Street.
And I think it's really only a problem in the business area, because when you go down to where the homes are,
There's
people
more room.
they pile it on their lawn.
Right,
And there's
right.
no lawn over by the other end.
Right.
But I think most of the problem that I see is where people are parking their cars. And I think people have to move their cars, they have to be in the back. You know, Bob and I have talked about, you know, if people are parking their cars all the way to the back, they can plow the parking lot and then come back later after the plowing's been done. They come back, people can move their cars, and then they can plow the rest of the parking lot. And that would be a way to
So
address that.
Actually, after we had our meeting
Yeah.
back in August or September or whatever, that plan has worked well.
I was gonna ask how
I
it's
think,
going.
I think what the problem is some of the new renters that are on Main Street are not told or don't know about the parking plan, so they leave their cars on Main Street. So then when you clear the sidewalks also, another problem is, and I'm all about the safety of the vehicles on Main Street. Because what happens is they shovel it out into the street. Now it takes up 3-4 feet of the snow going out into the street. They drive their cars on during the day and park on it, freezes, and then that's the end of it. So now you have cars out 3-4 feet from the curb, which now limits an 8 to 10 foot lane, traffic lane, down to 6 foot lane where you can't get a vehicle through, especially a tractor trailer or another type of truck.
Right.
So,
And that's one of the reasons I don't think a sidewalk district is really gonna work, because it's a combination of issues that have to be dealt with. And I think it's manageable. I think it's about education. I would hope that maybe the Economic Development Commission can try to do an outreach to try to educate all the property owners, and maybe also, maybe you could create a flyer to go on windows of cars or something like that, even though I know Main Street Association is another tool, I think,
This-
for
And
outreach.
there's also, it's a warning issue too. I mean,
Yeah.
you issue warnings.
Well,
because-
we've done that with our, you know, our letters that are going out, and we'll continue to do that on our end, but I think it wouldn't hurt to have some kind of informational, you know, come up with the plan that we had, like what Bob and I are talking about, and then making sure everybody's educated. Like you said, you get a new tenant moves on the street, they have no clue that, you know, but it's hard for me to know who's new, but maybe, you know, your neighborhood, you might know that
I got
a
a
new
question.
tenant moved in.
It's maybe confusing to me. The business on Main Street, are they responsible for the sidewalk?
Every property owner is responsible for
Okay.
their own sidewalk.
Period.
Yeah.
Ended there. So what I'm getting at is I live in Tilson. I am responsible for my driveway.
Mhm.
I can plow it or I can leave it. But if I plow it, I do it myself, or I pay a landscaper to come in and plow it. Now, I don't want to sound like a sour grape, but it seems to me that if they're responsible for that section, their options are they can move it themselves, or they can hire somebody to clear it and remove the snow.
You're right, and that's what we're talking about, that we are going to put the responsibility back on the landowner.
Okay,
But
I just
how,
wanna make sure.
there's other things to manage, though. There's the managing of parking, you know, a lot of things have been ignored. People have parked at night, maybe during a storm when they're not really supposed to, and we're just gonna have to enforce some of those things that have been in violation, so I think that's what we're talking about.
and this isn't,
And I would,
and this isn't new. I mean,
No, it's a
this
problem.
was,
No, this is-
I can remember this was a
been around
debate back
forever.
in the 90s too.
Yeah.
I
It's been
remember,
around, but I do think it's slightly different, and the highway department has like recognized this by removing
They always
snow.
have, though, Jen.
Right, no,
They
that's
always
what
have.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
and that's out of the recognition that
Well,
Main Street poses its own.
I remember
problem.
last year, somebody didn't move their car down by Free at Last Business, a little bit further down, and we discussed it. This time of the year, that portion of the road sees very little sun. So by that car not being moved, you remember, there was a block of ice that just stayed there for I don't know how long. So it's very important that.
The state's gonna be more aggressive, I'm gonna let you know, because they had 2 cars towed the other day.
Really?
Because I was gonna say, today, there was one car parked on the road today.
But I think the thing that we want to be careful of is for the health of the businesses in Main Street, we don't want people to get towed if they don't have to. So if people can be, you know, educated that if you park in the back and, you know, you move your car later, so Bob's guys can go back and, you know, you won't get towed, and you know, we don't want people to think, don't park on Main Street and don't come to Main Street because you're gonna get towed. So it's better if we can be proactive to get them to
Well,
cooperate with our plan.
the two that was towed, they said they just didn't know.
They didn't know.
And there's 2 signs on either end of Main Street that says no parking from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. You know, I mean,
No one reads those signs.
Yeah.
nobody reads signs, yeah.
They're very small,
Yeah, they're too small.
rusty and dirty.
Well,
No
no.
one can really-
You need to make
I
them
just got
right
12 new
size.
signs that on every entrance to this town, which are gonna be put up within the next week. So,
And Bob, did you say you already have a plan to remove some of the excess snow coming up? Of the piled up?
I basically coordinate it with the state, with the town of Marbletown, the county. They send me trucks. The problem is, after this large storm, everybody's in the same boat that we are in. We've spent the last 2 days of pushing snow back and removing snow from intersections. Now with the glorious news of another possible 2 feet of snow coming in Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, obviously we're in a kind of a rush to get rid of the snow. And then we have all these little storms leading up to that, so I can't take my sanders out of my dump trucks to move snow. So it's a weird situation where we're in a pattern that the weather is not cooperating.
I just want to also touch on when Ryan went around to evaluate the places where there was violations. There was also a couple of places where people had runoff going onto the sidewalk and creating an icy situation, which he is taking action to have those people educated that they need to move that so that they don't have the runoff going onto the sidewalk. And then 2 of them were because they hadn't done it the last time, and so you have a buildup. So, and some people did make, he said 4 of them, actually, so out of the 8 that were still a violation, 4 of them made some improvement. They made an attempt, but they didn't really get it up to the standards that we got. So even with the 8 of them that were still in violation, 4 of them had made an attempt to do some improvement. Yes.
What are the standards?
You want to be able to see the sidewalk.
So the whole sidewalk or a pathway? What is?
Yeah, I don't know what the exact, does anybody?
I don't know if we have one.
Was it
Yeah.
24 inches, or is that?
I mean, with that, is there a
New
code on that?
Paul,
If
New
you have-
Paul
if you
site
go to the-
has a
if you
code.
go to
Yeah, there's
ADA, that's
24
5
inches.
feet.
I think it
If
is.
you what?
If you follow ADA, that's 5 feet.
And there's a woman on Main Street who does have a wheelchair.
There are
So,
also
a
sidewalks
shovelful-
on Main
a
Street that are
shovelful
5 feet
width.
wide.
People with strollers.
I think most of
Young families on Main Street.
the east end is about 4 foot.
I guess I didn't bring that. I had a letter from Tom. Forgot that.
Yeah, I mean, another thing that makes it hard is because it's a main street, and people walk it, people walk a lot, it packs the snow down when people walk on it, and then it makes it that much harder for building owners to shovel, and, people have to help their neighbors, and they do help their neighbors, but they're elderly people, it's hard, you see some people out there just trying to get a path in front of their place that they can walk
Right,
through.
but like Bob said, you don't have to be, doesn't have to be that person going out there to do it, If you had a driveway, you'd hire somebody to plow your driveway, you have to,
Not for nothing, once it's,
different steps.
once you have a situation like that, and you're talking about hard-packed snow, the solution there would be you take one of them salamanders, aim it down, and just do a section at a time, and that would take care of that. I mean, there's solutions here, but there's
Yeah.
gonna be
I
nobody
think
to
people
come and do it.
could be more, be using salt, we have to use salt, to melt the
Those
ice.
salamanders are incredible though,
Well, I'm not-
especially in a funnel.
Flamethrowers.
I only know
It's a
the
heater, it's a heater.
in the wa-
What they use at the football games on the sidelines?
It's a heater.
Yeah.
Can I see that?
No.
From me, sitting on Main Street, I lived, right on Snyder, the corner. It was a nightmare because the county would come and then the town would plow the side over there.
No, we can't, the state.
The state, yeah. So that corner is horrible and just when they, keep doing it. So my dad's rule was we had to shovel down our sidewalk, then our neighbor's sidewalk, and then sometimes Troy, there's a few houses over, we all met. So we all kind of worked together. We weren't allowed to play in the snow until the sidewalks are done. So they finally get it done and then they would come plow again. So just keeping up and maybe neighbors helping neighbors, really.
I have to
As I said years ago, I lived on Main Street, many people, and I've talked to a few people that live on Main Street and have lived on Main Street for a long time, and they were like, I've always done it, this is the way we do it, we take care of it, and I think you're right, I think people just, sometimes you have new people coming in, you have to make sure they know that they're responsible.
And I have to say, Mom's sidewalk is the nicest
She
sidewalk.
did a
on
good
the-
job,
was
didn't
out
she?
there nonstop. They used to at one point just, when big snowstorms, just take the plow and plow it, because, it was too much. But yeah, she would just tell me, she kept up on it.
Did anybody try Googling cleaning sidewalks?
No,
I'm just suggesting maybe it might be
Yeah.
good. No. Yeah.
I have an old village logbook home that specifically cites that it's incumbent upon the homeowners along the sidewalk districts to sprinkle the cinders from their fireplace on the ice and the snow. Otherwise, they would be subject to a fine. So
Here, here.
you might want to consider that.
How many people still have
It's old
cinders?
village law.
All right, well, I think we've touched, yes.
Jean, I would love to volunteer for next year, it's too late for this year, but to compile a list of people who would like to shovel. I know there's kids somewhere. I know up where we are.
I got some.
You know, on Mountain Road, we can't find anyone to shovel anymore. And like
I don't
this-
think it's too late. Why can't you do it this year?
She's busy.
She's volunteering, I'm taking her services.
Okay, I'll come in and talk. But I think if people call town and say, do you have a list? If we can have a list of numbers of people who are willing, some young people who might just want to make some money.
I
Maybe
actually
a local
have,
Boy Scout group or something.
Something, but I would look into that, because I think it's important. I'm tired of shoveling.
well,
would
I think
love
that that's fine. The thing that we have to be, I just want to be careful of liability issues, you know, when you have, you know, it has to be coming from the homeowner that they are the ones that are asking those people to do that because.
Well, if they have a list and they call us.
Right, that's what I'm
up
just
to
saying,
them.
we have to just be really
Oh, yeah, I
careful,
would-
because once you're the one that cleaned it, you're the one that's liable for it, so you gotta be careful of that, yeah. All right, thank you, and, maybe when you guys meet with, you guys can talk about, maybe you should come up with a.
Yeah.
Oh, just one other thing,
Yeah.
you guys in your pack, is the light assessment.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yes.
thank you.
So,
I see that. Yeah, so
I'm a
your
week and a half late.
recommendations and
Why can't you
Perry's
raise it?
chiefs were the same,
Okay.
which is good, which is, that makes sense,
Consistent.
yeah.
And I'm tempted to just go ahead, because we haven't gotten any feedback from the fire departments, but I hate to do it without them and then find out there's one light they didn't want removed, so I think maybe, you know, we're gonna have to do another
Well, let's
outreach
look
to
at
see,
it.
if they have any.
I mentioned it more than once, but they just kind of.
Yeah, whatever, do what you wanna do, until the light's missing, and then they will be happy, you know? All right, well, I think the next step might be to just identify the ones that we're absolutely sure of.
That's
and
right,
ask
because
them to
there's some that haven't been on for years,
Yep, get
and
rid of
those can go.
All right, we'll work on
Do
that.
you know what
You know what,
Okay,
they
is-
shouldn't be
is your-
fixed, because I'm
is-
cost
is
of town
Melissa
manager.
Melissa
Mr.
Oh, okay.
You put a fixture in now, the
just,
town.
I'm
So this is Melissa Everett,
You have to speak closer.
not the famous.
The microphone, no, sorry.
That is a switch.
Can everybody hear me? I don't think I heard you. I noticed nobody's even been using it, have they? Does it matter?
What?
All right.
So I just want to give you a little bit of an introduction.
Thank you kindly.
These material in your folders.
Yeah, there is the Solarize Mid-Hudson 2015 campaign. Did you guys all get that?
I
John?
saw it.
Good. Yes, I gambled that you had already circulated material, so I just brought myself.
Well,
It's all yours.
Thank you.
I will say that I think we're looking for more information. We feel like we don't have enough information, so.
Right, so I think I'm Melissa Everett, I'm Executive Director of Sustainable Hudson Valley. I'm glad to be here, and I think what I can do that's most helpful would be to just sketch out the basics of Solarize, why, how it works, how we want to work with towns. We're funded by NYSERDA to do this. And then just really field your questions. And I know Chris has talked me through some of the questions on your minds, but I'm just really happy to do it, sort of open Q&A on it. So we can go from extreme winter weather and weird winters to recognizing that Rosendale is a climate smart community, to recognizing that solar is good and we want more of it. And I spend part of my time actually in Connecticut, where I've got a 93-year-old mother that I keep from leaving the refrigerator door open and stuff like that. And so I stumbled on this model called Solarize that is now being taken up a lot more in New York. So as the costs of solar are going down for the panels and all the technology, the hardest cost to crack is what they call soft costs, which is just the confusion of customers and tendency to procrastinate and, zoning issues and just all of the bringing people out of the woodwork who have solar already. And I 4 or 5 years ago, I got a list from Central Hudson, and there were already over 500 households in Central Hudson's territory back that far. So I know there are thousands now. So you bring them out, they're, you know, kind of ambassadors. They talk about the experience, what they bought, whether they leased or purchased, how they made the decision. And it humanizes it, and it gives people a chance to learn, to share what they're learning, you know, to reality check each other. And then the other feature is there's a fixed period of time during which there's a financial incentive. And there are a couple ways that that works. Either it's a discount that's negotiated with an installer or group of installers, or there's a tiered pricing structure. And that is what I think we're going to do. And tiered pricing means that the more solar that a given town purchases within a period of time, the lower the cost is for every household that purchases, including the ones up front that started. So there's an incentive for people who do want to go for it to reach out to their friends and neighbors as well. So a year ago, in Connecticut, where they've installed about 8 megawatts of solar, they've worked with over 40 communities. They've doubled and tripled the amount of solar in every town where this has happened. I became aware of it, excited by it. They're doing it as a partnership with a nonprofit called Smart Power, which is very professionalized, very much about renewable energy marketing, and the Connecticut equivalent of NYSERDA. So I had the opportunity to manage one of these town campaigns as a volunteer. I just jumped in, and it was wonderful. It was not easy, but it was really great. And in my mother's town of Enfield, Connecticut, we found 24 solar homes at the beginning of this process. We got 55 more in under 6 months, and we had additional other installers who weren't formally participating in the campaign just coming in, and you know, Solar City was doing bulk mailings, and so we know there are many more than that. Sustainable Hudson Valley a year ago did a webinar for some local officials and other interested parties. We've been talking it up with NYSERDA, which has become interested, and in a partnership with Catskill Mountain Keeper, program called Renewable New York, we have gotten funding. The total funding award from NYSERDA is $1.875 million for Solarize campaigns and education to go with it in the Southern Tier and Hudson Valley region. So Sustainable Hudson Valley share will be $486,000, which is way more money than we've ever seen, and we are very pleased. And it will allow us to hire a staff of 2 or 3 and roll this out over a 3-year period. And we've been talking with interested folks. There's a group in Kingston and a group in Woodstock that want to do it on the early side, and probably a group in New Paltz. And I understand that you all are kind of, you know, you might want to be part of this small group if your questions are answered to your satisfaction. You don't have to do it quickly in order to do it. There will be probably 6 or 7 waves of 3 to 8 communities at a time that we will shepherd through this process. But if you do it soon, then you're ahead. So you got that handout. What else have you got there? Do you have the one that says how we work with communities?
Yes.
Okay, good. So basically, Solarize is a volunteer-intensive thing in that, you know, the way you learn about solar is you come to an event at the library that your neighbors are running. You hear from your neighbors who have solar. So there's a piece of it that really has to be done by the community, or by people in the community. But there's a whole other piece of it, banging out press releases, doing the logistics of events, all the real underpinning work. That's what we're going to do, that we are funded to do, and that,
The 2 organizations.
Yeah, exactly. And Catskill Mountain Keeper also was able to be part of they called a Southern Tier Solar Works out in Binghamton. So we all have the experience of running these already. And we, the installer selection, we've seen how it's been done in other states. And we are just now, with NYSERDA, finalizing, 10 or 15 pages of work scope of details of how this will roll out, which will be appended to our contract before we get a green light to do this. But the key things will include pretty straightforward application for communities to participate. Just basically, local town board approves it. Some group is designated to be kind of monitor it. Some individual is designated to be coordinator. The next thing is installer selection, and we manage that, but the towns are encouraged to feed in what criteria you care about, and then also to be part of interviewing the installer candidates before we make the decision. So we as the nonprofit marketing partner signed the memorandum of understanding with you that we're going to do this, and with the installer that they are accountable. We're doing an information session with solar installation firms on Friday at the Business Resource Center to just make sure that they understand and are comfortable and hear their perspectives. The great thing, the way this is organized, is that it cuts costs for the consumer by having the negotiated discounts. It also cuts marketing costs for installers by developing the relationship between them and the community. So it's sweet that way. It has an edge to it, because if you're an installer who is not selected, you're at a disadvantage. So we're being very, very careful to communicate that, unselected installers are welcome to be, they're not being driven out of the community. There is no disapproval or stigma. We're going to frame our request for proposals to allow either individual installation firms or consortia, 2 or 3 firms. And I think we've seen this work well in other places, that it's less exclusive and they just kind of share the leads.
In our conversations, you would also clarify part of what you're asking from the installers are that they would be present with the education campaign. So
exactly.
They're being selected with a number of different criteria, but one of them is that they're participating in this program. So.
Yeah, and that they are not just good at climbing on roofs, but they're good educators, right. That they will plan some marketing budgeting for the community, that they will devote a particular, how much staff time will they devote to the community. So the way I've seen it work in Connecticut, for example, is after the towns decide to participate, then we have a sort of boilerplate RFP for installers. Towns indicate what they most want to see in it, and we customize it. So for example, locally owned or businesses with, real presence in the Hudson Valley, I think would be a lot of folks' priorities, for example. But we do that. Solicit the proposals, review the proposals, and then whoever is your designated representative, sort of sits on the committee, can interview the installers, and so you advise the final decision. And then it's this first group of towns. NYSERDA is actually being the most nimble I've ever seen them be. It is awesome, and they want to be able to give us a February something start date that will allow for a first day of spring beginning to this initial campaign. And we're calling this initial campaign a pilot because it's the first time it will be in the Hudson Valley. Kingston is almost certain, and
Kingston, the city or the town?
City, yeah. Julie Noble, the environmental educator on staff there, is very supportive, and we're meeting with the mayor next week to make sure that he's comfortable letting her put a little time into it. So this is going to be a smaller group of towns than we'll have in most of the others. This will be 3, and really, lots of hand-holding, lots of careful evaluation of what's going on. It's not your only chance, but we'd love to have you participate.
So when you say smaller group, you mean because it's the first wave is a small group?
Yeah. We want to be really careful, and this cluster is very close together, so I think it'll be a really good first one.
So you said Kingston, sorry, you called
Oh.
Kingston and
No, Kingston, Woodstock, and I just got a text 2 hours ago that New Paltz might want to jump in, but I have no,
We're the other.
So we do this.
yeah, you'd be the third.
But, I just want to clarify, I am very, interested in solar. I myself have investigated getting solar panels.
Mhm.
I own a property that has 3 LEED certified units that we tried to put solar power on, and of course,
Mhm.
it was too expensive to do, it didn't really
Mhm.
work.
At the
But,
time.
it didn't pay off, you want to have something that's energy efficient, but also gives you, a return eventually. And everybody that I've talked to and has done solar has been successful only when they've done the leasing from some companies that do leasing. So I think it's good to come up with a way to make solarization less expensive, because obviously it's too expensive. I do have some concerns because, let me just ask this question, has it been done by any town in New York yet?
Absolutely. It has been done by Ithaca, a group of towns out in the southern tier, Binghamton, revolving around Binghamton, a few places in Brooklyn.
Okay, you don't have to go through, I just
Yeah,
want to
and-
know, because.
Yeah, it
because
has, and
You've talked about Connecticut, and it's different municipal laws and rules, and.
yeah, and let me just add that NYSERDA has spent the last year digging very deeply into municipal law, what are the, barriers from permitting to, all the stuff.
Right.
So that's why, we're kind of walking in with them,
Right. I think we have a lot of, interest in getting solarization in our community, because, it's renewable energy, and,
Yeah.
it's an important thing, but I have to say, I'm a little concerned about the last minute, I don't know that we can really make a decision tonight, because we haven't got enough information.
Yeah, I wasn't remotely thinking that you would be
Okay.
making a decision tonight.
Okay.
I understood that I was
We
just
had
coming to
something
answer
came
some
to me that
questions.
said
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
so. But
Yeah.
I do want to ask about the process, because for us as a board, we have to be careful about the responsibilities that we have as a municipality in following the code.
Mhm.
And so one of the concerns I have and questions I have is, how are we endorsing, I want to know why you need the town endorsement or the town resolution, because, can you just offer to community without that? Because one of the concerns I have is having another entity be responsible for something that we're endorsing. You're going to be running a program that we don't have oversight, and typically municipalities would oversee their own projects.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a concern there, because there's some separation there, even though you have a volunteer or somebody sitting on the panel to make a decision. The other concern I have is choosing, when we go out to hire someone, we make it, like you said, an RFP to hire someone, but this sounds more like choosing businesses, that we're endorsing you choosing businesses, or select few, to do a job that kind of limits the market for everybody in the town, and that concerns me a little bit. I'm not really comfortable with only choosing certain ones. I think if you have a criteria, anyone who does that work can meet that criteria, why would you want to limit it? Because I don't know that, I'm not comfortable with what I know about municipal law, that would be okay, because
Okay.
it looks like we're endorsing only certain businesses, we're not hiring them ourselves, so.
Right, okay, so I have 2 questions on the table. Can I address,
Sure.
but I want to make sure I do justice to those, and then feel free to bring more, okay? And so the second one was installer selection. The first one was,
Whether the town would have to endorse, can you do
yeah,
it
sorry,
without the
okay.
town's endorsement?
All right, yes, you can. Out in the southern tier, they found it very hard to get town endorsements because it was such a new concept. The town endorsement adds credibility, and we're not asking for casual endorsement. We really are asking you to be on top of it enough as you're doing that it's a meaningful endorsement. Because what this is all about is really reducing confusion and uncertainty. And so the town endorsement has a lot of value. And NYSERDA is just asking us to do everything in our power. It isn't, I don't think it's a deal breaker, but we'd like you not to prematurely say no. We'd like you to keep that open and just, see.
Well,
if
I
we
just
can-
wanna know
yeah.
how to get around some of those things.
Mhm.
How do you navigate with, no, I shouldn't say around, but navigate through some of those things that in practice, we haven't done this before.
Mhm,
And it
mhm.
feels a little bit uncomfortable for us to give that power to somebody else,
Mhm.
make decisions about businesses getting work.
Right.
That we're not, and we're endorsing that when we're not overseeing it.
Okay,
So
let me
that's-
answer, okay, so that couple more pieces to the answer.
Yeah.
So, from the point of the installer selection through the campaign, the oversight includes a weekly conference call with the installers and a weekly review of their spreadsheets of who has expressed interest, who has gotten a proposal, who has gotten a site visit, who, is signing a contract. And every town's rep will be on those calls. And they are really important because they're showing the quality of the customer service, the personalized attention, the education, and so forth. The process of selection is, again, NYSERDA has spent a lot of the last year making sure that what they're asking us to do with towns is very consistent with municipal law and procurement practice.
Yeah,
they're like,
I think
yeah.
what we need is something that shows those steps, so we can show it to our own attorney, and maybe even Association of Towns, so we can ask those questions to them based on what your process is.
That would be easily done. I would be really happy to, probably in about a week, because we're just kind of working out all these flowcharts and stuff and making sure we'll have our NYSERDA program manager give us the green light on what we share
Okay.
with you first.
So then just a second.
Yeah.
So the other question then is, my concern, and I don't know how NYSERDA has figured this out with municipal law, is how can we endorse businesses that we haven't hired ourselves? That is a concern for me, because let me just give you an example. I could not, as this board, if I would take another business, say, we're gonna write a resolution to hire 3 contractors that have businesses in our town for something else, like say, only get your gasoline at this place, or only, because we endorse them. So I have a concern about endorsing a business that's trying to, or leaving out some businesses that are in our community, because they may be able to fit the criteria. I feel that that is a dangerous, dangerous thing for the town board to do. And I wonder about the ethics for the town boards. That's why I'm concerned and confused about what NYSERDA has found to, in municipal law to allow for that, because I would say that becomes an ethics issue of endorsing certain businesses.
Well, actually, let me respond, but I think this is something that all of you should be discussing in
Yeah.
depth, beyond my sort of little briefing here. So towns commonly do requests for proposals. And the RFPs, a well-constructed RFP will say, here are the criteria for what we need. And it's transparent, and the review process is transparent, and there's a public record of, how the decision was made. The interviews are open to the public, all that kind of stuff. So all of those things we would be doing. I think, I'm not sure what you call it.
Solarize
Yeah,
campaign
yeah.
is paralleling the town process.
Yeah, exactly. So, you'll have a chance to review the RFP before it goes out and to, I'm guessing you and the other towns together will come up with some consensus of the best.
So you're saying that whoever gets chosen will be chosen by the group from all the towns, all the towns would
Yeah,
weigh
with
in?
us. I mean, we're responsible for the final decision, but the way it will get made is with town reps and us sitting down in a work session, looking at the proposals and saying, what about this, what about that?
And just to clarify,
Sure.
these proposals are in response to an RFP that's been developed with NYSERDA's
Exactly.
oversight, including
With
their
NYSERDA's
legal-
very fine-tooth comb, including legal oversight.
So what about the contract that we have with you? you know, that we're.
Okay, so we do the contract with the installer, you do a simple memorandum of understanding with us that we're going to do this. And so we have the bottom line responsibility for making sure that they perform well. But you have, you know, you're a trusted partner in guiding us on that. Make sense?
I understand, but it's different than anything we typically do. So I just think that our board has to, you know, get some feedback from you know, the state and from legal.
Yeah, that's great. No, you absolutely would.
So, and I mentioned to you today that the Association of Towns meeting had a panel on community solar, but that was really about the Solarize program.
Yeah.
And they focused on Tompkins County in particular, where I guess they had a pretty successful program.
Yep, and Solar Tompkins is actually the model for the RFP that we will be using.
Okay. Now, well, one, we should look for that at this upcoming Association of Towns meeting, because I'm sure they have a lot on renewable energy, and the Association of Town Attorneys will be there, and that'll be a good opportunity to ask questions about these questions about it. But I was curious what the role of municipalities or volunteer or the town environmental commissions have been in the other cases for instance, in Tompkins County or elsewhere. Was there a role, or was it purely?
Everyone's different, but I'm pretty sure Tompkins County, Sustainable Tompkins, you know, that grassroots organization was very active. In the southern tier, it was Binghamton Regional Sustainability, whatever they're called, and Catskill Mountain Keeper working together.
It was grassroots groups, but
Yeah,
did they ever partner with the towns? Or?
They tried, and the towns were not receptive out there. In both Massachusetts and Connecticut, it's formally structured. The towns have to partner with the state agencies to make it work.
Does it have to in this case?
It does not have to. Again, NYSERDA is just saying, do your best.
Because the other difference between what you're doing and what we do is we do a project, we do the RFP, so that we can do something that's for the town. This is to do something for people. You know, other people are going to be paying for the work that gets done. We're not going to be part. So it's just a different process, and it's a different responsibility than what we typically have.
Yeah, I think you really need to hash it out a little bit more,
but
because it's on behalf of the town.
No, I
You know,
get
it's
that.
bringing state resources to you, and I think your concern is, does the town government have the level of control and accountability?
And liability, all
Yeah,
those things
yeah,
are concerning
yeah.
me. You know, you guys are going to, you know, hire somebody and not hire somebody. You're going to choose someone. Then you got a person. You know, Mr. Smith decides to hire that person because he wants to put solar panels. Let's say there's an accident or the person puts a hole in his roof. What liability does the town have when we really haven't had any hands-on?
The town has no liability, and the way any installer to qualify to participate in this process has to be on NYSERDA's approved list and has to be, it's called NABCEP certified. It's the Installer Professional Association. And so there's constant quality assurance that way. And no installer that passes those hurdles will fail to have a really good warranty.
Well, I'm not saying that they don't. What I'm saying is, it's not, you know, if there's, you know, we're taking a responsibility. I'm just concerned about the responsibility the board's taking for something we don't have hands-on oversight. Where any other project that we do, it's us running that project.
Correct. I mean, your oversight is in shaping the RFP and reviewing the installers up front, participating in the regular oversight calls, and just basically like, you know, get on the phone and give us an earful instantly if there's anything that makes you remotely uncomfortable. But I think, you know, between this and your decision, conversation with Association of Towns attorneys, your attorneys, Max Joel, who is our program officer at NYSERDA, could get on the phone with you.
Just a few questions about, so the process is I just got this, so I didn't read through it, but is the RFP participation, get an idea what
First step is get a group of towns on board, and once we have interested ones, we'll use an RFP that's just basically an application that says, you know, what's your publicity plan, who's your coordinator, those kinds of things for the record. So that publicity plan will shape the campaign as a whole. And typically it's a workshop every few weeks, it's tabling at public events, it's, you know, regular presence in the media. So once that's orchestrated and there's a kickoff event set, then we do the installer RFP and manage all of that so that the installers are chosen maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the kickoff. There's a meet the installers meeting so that you know, everybody just gets a working relationship going, and then we launch.
And it has, is the environmental commission, so it sounds like it's a real partnership with the town, as you said, it's more meaningful than just signing on and saying, yes, we endorse this, but it's actually being pretty active. So do we have?
No, at this point in time, the Environmental Commission has not voted to be the partner for this. We have a community member whom I think is still here, Jim Luxbury, who has been part of conversations both in Sustainable Hudson Valley and NYSERDA about performing the role of point person. As a part of the
Community
project.
volunteer, is that the ombudsman role? That is,
No, actually, the ombudsman role is different. We have a person who is a solar educator, editor of McGraw-Hill's series on renewable energy. Seth Lightman is his name, and he will operate a helpline so that anytime somebody has a question, you know, we have 2 or 3 installers that we've chosen perhaps, and they give, you know, just kind of different information, and there's a neutral, accountable educator who will pick up the phone and get back to them within 24 hours with an answer to any question that they have. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Just a couple more things. Is this an ownership or a lease?
There will be both.
There will be both.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for the tiered pricing, for the, you know, in the incremental levels of it, the unit of measure is signed contracts. So whether it's a purchase or a lease.
Whether it's
yeah, and it's important to us to make both of those available because, you know,
more value for the
ownership is more, it's a better financial deal.
yeah.
But if you're cash flow limited, if you're, you know, elderly or whatever, and you don't necessarily want to make a long-term investment, the leasing option's important.
So are you limited to how many vendors you would put on board that meet the criteria?
Our thought process at this time is that we would limit it to about 3. And the reason is that it really does help to reduce confusion. And, you know, if you all deliberate and just say, you know, this is not, we're not comfortable with this.
I'm
Yeah.
not comfortable.
Right.
with
Yeah, I mean, you'll deliberate further.
Yeah, obviously.
I do know that this is like, it's not, you're not gonna enroll the whole market of, you know, people that can get rooftop solar, and
It's a boost, it's a jump start.
It's
Yeah.
a boost, but that can also boost others to start looking into it, like the more people get engaged in it, the more.
But you also have to look at the other side, that it could ruin somebody too. It could ruin businesses that are struggling to provide solar power to different people. And now as a town, we've chosen 3 people to be the vendors, and maybe you're putting somebody else out of business.
You know what? This was really important to me as I've been a Solarize watcher for the last year. And solar installers are really smart. And it has not happened that people get put out of business. What has happened is that installers that are not chosen either, you know, work one town away or they keep working anyway. Especially in the Connecticut model, what I saw was that we had our chosen installers, and then there were just a bunch of other installers around, and they weren't giving quite as much discount, or they weren't formally part of it, but it was enhancing their business too.
It doesn't feel ethical to me, I'm
No,
sorry.
it doesn't to me neither.
It doesn't feel comfortable.
In
It feels like
Enfield
we're
is a
taking business
different-
away from
Yeah.
someone.
Well, no, there are 40 Connecticut
I
towns,
lived in
and
Connecticut.
yeah.
And so I know that over there, know, it's more plentiful than over in the rural area of over here. So I kind of have to agree that it could be
I
harmful.
mean, I'd rather see the program be available to anybody that meets the
Right.
criteria rather than
Right. I
than
guess the
choosing
problem with
three
that is
people.
that you don't get that it's an aggregation model, so you're not gonna get the.
There's a lot of
the
information
discount.
here that just needs to be,
I mean, if
That's
you were a contractor and you were hearing the town was going to endorse 3 other contractors and really, you know, you're not gonna be part of that, I would say that'd be a serious issue, you know, it could be, I don't know how many contractors we have that do that, you know, in our area, but it is real concern for me that, you know, we're choosing businesses, you know, that's not our job. Our job is not to do that, and I feel like it's overstepping our responsibility. I'm a little concerned about that.
I also feel as we're the board, we're the management of the town, I feel that somehow we're not gonna have a lot of oversight, and we're not gonna be in control.
And I don't think we want to be in control. We're endorsed,
Well,
if we were to endorse, we're
I'll
endorsing
tell you
the
what,
program.
you're gonna wanna be in control. If there's problems in
But
that,
I'm
that this creates and it comes back and it gets dumped in our lap and we have to justify it and explain it,
Right.
then it is gonna be.
When you guys vote to do something, you expect me to oversee the whole project. And it feels a little uncomfortable for me when there's a project that the town board would endorse or say yes to, and I don't have that hands-on. And maybe that means, you know, that's part of who I am. I'm like, you know, I like to micromanage and be part of what's going on, but to just know that it's out there and I don't really see the steps happening as far as, you know, Joe Smith got hired to do Mr. Jones's house, and I don't know how that came out and what happened with that.
Well,
what
actually-
the results are, what the, you know, whether the steps are being followed according to what we agreed to.
Yeah, so actually, I have to factually just be very, very clear. Whatever, you know, values we can differ, but facts, the regular reporting, regular reviewing of the installer's progress, you can be as in our face as you want to be. If you want to micromanage, you could be on those calls every week. I would love it. We try to insulate you from the work, but not from the control.
Why did NYSERDA give the money to non-for-profits to do this, but then expect the towns to be part of the process? That's what doesn't make sense to me. You know, why wouldn't you just be endorsed by your programs, which you have you have 2 very successful, viable non-for-profits that, you know, why would you need the town's oversight?
You know, the towns have just, when they do get involved, you know, sometimes there's a letter and an announcement, it's an added trust builder. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm concerned about. We're asking us to ask people to trust that we are endorsing something and that we have approved something when I feel that I don't have control over the deal. And I understand you're saying, that's why I want to see more paperwork on it. And so I had 2 things that I was concerned about, that and the other thing was, you know, choosing one vendor over another. You know,
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing when I choose a vendor, we choose a vendor as a board to do a job for us, okay, based on criteria.
Yeah.
But now you're saying, we're gonna choose for the whole town who gets hired to do work and who doesn't. And
Well,
that concerns
it's very analogous. It's the same thing, really. Except that it's a 3-town RFP, so it's a consensus of what the criteria are.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's the same.
Those people are freely entering into the contracts or not, you know. it's
But
not
like she
we're-
said, they're saying, it's a campaign, and part of the campaign is saying, look, the town picked these people.
Oh, yeah,
you
we
know,
would be,
we would
there
be
would, we,
yeah.
the town of Rosendale would be endorsing that, there's
Yeah.
no question. So, you know, you'd have to be comfortable with that, you know. I understand your concern about the vendors, about the narrowness of the market, and that's, you know, that's been, that's something that's come up a lot.
Did that
you know.
come up
Sure.
when you went to that training?
I've heard it in other venues, but, you know, it's tricky because it's also a way to, you know, get a better price for, you know,
Right.
residents that they wouldn't otherwise have access to because you're grouping. So in that sense, you know, it is a benefit to consumers, and they are, you know, and our residents, if they like, you know, the plan and can enter into it, the town is helping make it possible. And it is the, as you said, as you both say, it's the trust issue, this is one of the points that they talked about at the Association of Towns meeting, is what stops people. One of the things that stop people, well, one is cost, right? That's a big one, and even with a discount, it's still going to not be accessible for people, but it may be more accessible for people. Another is just people are just stopped in their tracks by the information they have to master to make a decision, and the need to take a leap of faith with a particular contractor on an investment that is sizable, and having to navigate like this is there's a vetting process that happens for them, which reduces that market barrier essentially to the spread of solar. So it's a balance. You know, you're right. On the one hand, it is, you know, it is limiting. You're saying here's your choice of 3 vendors. If you want this discount, you know, you have to use these 3 vendors. So there are some. We may have some solar installers that are just not going to get the contract. On the other hand, you know, we can often enter into contracts that somebody always loses. you know.
Well, I think that's okay when we make a decision for town business, because we have municipal law that guides us for that. We have no choices when we do a project. We have laws that say you have to choose people by this criteria. But when you go out, when you're interfering with, capitalism is basically what I say. You know, it's interfering with
But it's
ability
imperfect. That's the problem.
It's
So the difference is, let me, here's what I think I get. The difference between this and a town RFP for town services, in your mind, is that this is not just a service for town buildings and infrastructure. This is a service into the marketplace for the consumers of the town. And so it's kind of uncharted legally and ethically. And you don't want to rush into that, which is really good. You shouldn't rush into that. But that's really what the question is, you know. And a question for NYSERDA or for your lawyers would be, you know, does procurement law apply here?
That's
You know.
one question I have, because
Yeah. But I just wanted to make clear that I get what you're saying.
Installer.
We have different procurement laws than the other 2 towns too. You know?
Right.
I mean,
Well, that's
we have
true, but
different-
I was also thinking that, you know, I always, in our procurement contracts, wish that we could say, you have to be from this area, you know?
I would too.
But the question is, like, if you can potentially make that a criteria in the Solarize project, but the question is, can we do that?
That's my point.
So
That's my
that
point.
is a legal question,
Yep.
and I think that's when we have to get answered, and we have the Association of Towns meeting next week, so we can possibly get an answer, at least for the legal question.
Yeah.
Right, but that's why I'd like to see more paperwork on it, so before we go forward, to ask those questions.
Sure.
Because right now, it's just a vague outline for me. You know?
Yeah. I was trying the idea of minimizing paperwork till
No, I
we
understand.
met,
I mean,
but I
it's-
can
we
certainly follow that.
appreciate
Yeah. I'm
But
happy
just,
to follow
you know,
up.
for me, just looking over it initially, I just see all these red flags going off, and I'm like, how do we address those things? You know, how do we make sure that we're following municipal law? How do, you know, I would have said, you're telling me they've already looked through it. What I know about municipal law, my gut reaction would have been, this isn't gonna follow municipal law, so that's why I'm curious to see what the attorneys have to say.
Yeah,
Just
so you
because-
have, yeah, I mean,
Just
so,
because we're
yeah.
talking about the private sector and not public, public business, public infrastructure, we're talking about private infrastructure that gets improvements. So, that's what.
Yeah, so you'll check that independently, and
Yep, we
yeah.
So I think the most important question is whether, I was told initially this has to happen this month. And so if we were to opt in, that would happen this month, that has to happen next week. Meanwhile, we've got Association of Towns coming up, we've got more than a week from NYSERDA.
Yeah, so, you know,
So
we've been
this is
sitting in
possible
this,
to continue
we've
through
been
March?
sitting in this little zone of trying not to have our timeline slip, but also trying not to pressure anyone and getting our, you know, the ducks in a row from NYSERDA. So, you meet every 2 weeks?
No, we meet twice
First-
a month.
Twice a month.
First 2 weeks
So,
of each month.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So I think, you know, if you were to start turning the corner and say, okay, we're comfortable with this, there are certain things we require to make it work, but we'd like to go forward, and you said, so would you guys like, you know, change the launch by 10 days? I would say, sure. You know, we don't want to slip for months and months.
Your launch is when? When is it?
Our,
Right now.
our wished for launch date is the first day of spring,
Which is-
March 21st. But that would still allow,
March meeting.
yeah, March meeting. So,
I know that the Environmental Commission wants to hear more about it too, because they did not feel that they had enough information. I also need a little bit more information about the roles of, you know, a volunteer, and, you know, so there's still some more questions, and I think, I can guarantee you we're not going to be ready by next
Our
week.
attorney.
So was this presented to the environmental commission, this outline? of-
No.
no,
this was-
no, the Environmental Commission got a presentation months and months ago before this was developed and before we had this funding.
It was before
Right,
NYSERDA
so-
announced that they were
Yeah.
going to be part of it.
So to expedite, to make sure all the questions are getting answered simultaneously, the other set of questions, because there's a list of, you know, action items that
Mhm.
municipalities should, it's hoped for that they will participate in. So it would be good, Chris, to, you know, review this with the environmental commission and see if they would be willing, I mean, it's great that Jim is fine, but I don't know if Jim does it all, or.
Yeah,
Probably
I
not.
mean, no one person should do it all.
Right, so to see if there's interest in the environmental commission,
Well,
They
again,
should
you're-
every
They made
other
it very
question
clear
be
they are
answered.
not ready to make a decision right now. They've made it very clear. They are not ready. It's just-
going into this month, we were
They're
all
very-
operating
right,
until
just
5
too-
minutes ago,
too
I was operating under the
vague
impression we
right
had to do it
now.
this
Oh,
month.
no, yeah, no, I just mean theoretically, I mean, it would affect our decision
What they
if
have.
the commission did not feel like it had bandwidth to do anything, because we need some, you know, people, human resources within the municipality to, you know,
Yeah,
be
you
dedicated to
need,
this.
especially someone who will be on the oversight calls and just make sure that things are working to your satisfaction, and then you
And it could be
need
a board member.
yeah, I mean, I know who I'd like it to be. But I think, you know, you need a
That's what you
pool
get for asking
of,
too many questions.
of, you know, 20 people who will each sit at an outreach table once or twice. It's that level, because we do all the, you know, the heavy logistical lift, but it's just the local faces that you need.
Right. And the environmental commission used to do a lot of energy programming, and I don't know if it has anything planned for this year, so, but this was just, you know, this kind of thing is in line with its past activities.
Yeah, so why don't
What makes you think that the other towns are ready to pull the trigger?
Kingston has said to me, and this is the staff, but she's, you know, pretty well plugged in,
Yes.
has said to me, if you don't do this pretty soon, we're just gonna do it ourselves because we are so impatient to do this.
Well, you know what? Why hasn't all the towns that you have on your list, why don't we break it down and meet with them so we can, as their
I
management of
put
their
a call,
towns?
I put a call into the other two towns.
Good,
city
yeah, Julie
towns.
Noble is the person, we have not
And I
yet
called-
met with
I
Mayor
called
Gallo.
I
We've
called
got,
Jeremy, I haven't heard back from him yet, so.
okay,
I wanted to
well,
see.
our John Wackman, who's our board liaison, and is gonna be, could well be our staff person, is briefing Woodstock tonight. They have a meeting as well.
I'll just tell you that somebody from another group, what is it, Catskill Mountain?
Mountain Keeper,
Mountain Keeper.
better, probably.
Approached me last week, not knowing who I was, and told me Rosendale had already decided to be on board,
You're kidding.
and that was a concern for me.
that is a concern for me.
Okay, I'm the supervisor, I don't
Yeah.
know anything about it, and she told
could
me
you
that they were
confirm-
ready to, they had already decided to do it, and they were doing it, so I wanna know really what's going on with these other towns, at this point.
No, that's absolutely fine. I mean, I will tell you that our champion in Kingston is Julie Noble. We have a meeting set up with the mayor for about a week from now. So if you call the mayor, he would say, oh yeah, I think I heard that.
Noble,
Noble,
Noble, and
N-O-B-L-E.
Julie is really, I mean, she does,
She's the paid environmental educator
I understand.
for the city.
she does all that for the.
So was the person who said that to you?
I don't wanna put it saying.
Very, no, because I want to, a very tall, extroverted person?
I'm not gonna say.
It's
All right.
everything, doesn't need to be.
It was just a concern that, it had been decided.
Oh, from our perspective, it has felt there's been a little bit of a roller coaster feeling.
I didn't even have
would-
this yet.
Yeah, I would
didn't have
never,
this yet,
no,
but
I
was
would never
already being
portray
decided
it
that
as
was
happening. I would have, there'd be 2 or 3 times in our back and forth that I had intuitively felt like Rosendale's gonna go for it. Not that Rosendale has made any formal commitment, but that there's some spirit, some interest.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's
that's
what I would have,
Yeah, and we've
somebody
done
might have
a lot
worded,
on
but-
energy in the
yeah,
past,
yeah.
so-
But no, if anyone said anything more, beyond that, that would be not okay.
Have you, Melissa, found any companies like really super interested in licking their chops to monopolize like Solar City or another such company? Like,
What
this
I've
is- this
seen
is
in
the
other
mechanism
parts of the
for-
country, other places, is that Solar City will ride the coattails, and Trinity and Sungevity and all the rest will ride the coattails. They'll do a lot of bulk mailing and marketing independently of Solarize. We are doing an installer information session this Friday. And actually, if anybody wanted to come and sit in, it's noon to 2.
How did you reach out to them? How did you find them?
We went through the NYSERDA website, we selected all the ones that use NABCEP certified installers, and then we winnowed away all the ones whose, office address was listed as someplace in New Jersey or something, and just picked ones that could actually come up with a business address in the Hudson Valley. And we sent an email and then follow-up calls to all of them.
And how many did you end up with at that?
We have 10 registered. We ended up with 7 pages of those, and we have 10 people, 10 companies registered to come to the info session on Friday.
So I think in some way you've kind of proven my point, that you have 10 installers that are actively doing the right thing and have the right credentials, but 7 of them could be, excluded from this process, and that just concerns me.
Well, what will happen? There are 10 installers that are coming to the info session. What I've seen in other places is that typically installers kind of pick and choose, and they will apply for some Solarize campaigns, but not a whole lot, because it really is strenuous for them. So, in the Connecticut experience, which is the one where I was involved in the review in depth, we had a cluster of 7 towns, and we were looking at, I think, 4 to 5 proposals that we got. And there was one that was just way out of the ballpark on price, and our town manager said, knock that out. And then there was one company that was like a 2-person company, and we just said, maybe not. So the selection, it wasn't so arbitrary. And, I think, I want to take up like the entire night here, but I think really, if this is a thorny issue, but you otherwise like the concept, we can certainly work on how that would be handled. And I think the ranking in terms of their marketing budget, the staffing commitment, the other things that they would put in are really the criteria that I would see us using.
And it's a big improvement. Originally, it was just one contractor.
So that's
The
a big
original
problem.
model.
That's a big problem.
Yeah, and I saw,
That was before NYSERDA, before this, yeah,
Well-
before the model that we're working on now.
Yeah. Massachusetts and Connecticut started with one installer. It did not work so well for all the other installers. Connecticut tried a model called Choice with multiple installers. And that was what was going on in the town where I managed it. Multiple installers were baiting and switching and elbowing and competing, so that didn't work so well either. And so what we think will work the best is a consortium, if we can get installers to apply several of them jointly or work together so that there's a way that we, distribute leads among them, so that they're incentivized to collaborate.
It seems to me like there is some sweet spot, some number of people that you have enrolled, and the larger the number that seem interested, the larger could be that coalition or collaboration of installers,
I'm gonna ask the hard ethical question too. Has anybody that's been pushing this have a business?
Note summarizing
That'd be great.
what I have tried to
I would
say.
really appreciate it. You've been
And-
very patient with us.
No, it's good. This has to happen. This is really important. I will get our model RFP okayed by NYSERDA and then to you. I will get you, in this note, I'll include just the campaign flow chart a little bit.
Can I have your contact for NYSERDA also?
His name is Max Joel. And he is in their New York City office.
And he hasn't had anything to do with the out-of-state, it's just been New York, it's NYSERDA, right?
He has been interviewing people in all the other state programs to just, learn as much as possible.
Okay.
And the state is really pushing this partnership idea, this notion of, local governments, nonprofits, and
Yep.
business, or, energy professionals and whatever, in furthering, this is all part of this
Yeah,
reform
but
effort.
the state is famous for saying, on this hand, we want you to do this, but on this hand, your hands are tied because you're not allowed to do this, so, how you make all that work together
Right.
is what I'm trying to figure out.
No,
Yeah.
I think that it would be valuable for other communities too, to get the legal questions answered.
Yeah, there is there's a consulting group hired by the state to help communities with legal and technical stuff. They go by the name New York Sun PV Trainers Network. I will get you their contact information. Because they are separately funded by NYSERDA to provide free technical assistance to towns on solar stuff.
Okay.
And so I will find out if they,
Yeah, whatever you write up,
Yeah.
just give me the contact people.
yeah, okay.
Thank you. You want I don't have my cards here.
High-powered people don't bring cars.
It's in my office.
It's all right.
Could you just
Okay, yeah.
send her,
Yep.
information, emails for either me or Jill, so that we can get that.
Okay, so I think the most important thing is just focus on what you like, really hash out what you don't like and how to make it work better, and if it starts to flow, then we'll try to accommodate working with you guys for this round, but this is a 3-year project, so it's more important to get it right than to rush it,
Yeah, I agree.
okay?
I appreciate your help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa.